and welcome back to The Analyst dated 5th of March 2024, in which you will be learning good details about 5 very important current affair articles featured in today's newspaper, The Hindu and Indian Express. Starting off with the first article, in a monumental feat, Supreme Court has finally ended the legislative immunity on bribery. So here we'll read what were these immunities, what are parliamentary privileges, and what will be the impact of this decision. In the second article, we will analyze the recently concluded economic agreement between India and European Free Trade Association. In the third article, we'll read about the Kalpakkam nuclear power plant, which is also India's first fast breeder reactor. Then, as a crocheted lace craft of Andhra Pradesh gets the GI tag, we'll understand GI tags in great detail, and we will also take up some PYQs. And finally, winding up the discussion with the story of largest religious monument of the world, that is Angkor Wat of Cambodia. And meanwhile, we'll also brief you about the mapping of Cambodia as well. So let's get started. So our first topic is about a historic move that has made by the 7 judges bench of Supreme Court, in which it has reviewed, reconsidered and corrected its previous mistake that was made via a judgment in which Supreme Court said that there is certain legislative immunity even on the bribery cases given to the member of parliaments or to the member of legislative assemblies, and that previous judgment has been quashed recently by the 7-membered constitutional bench. And so this is a very historic move. Why is it important from UPSC point of view? Because this legislative immunity that was being provided to the parliamentarians against the bribe itself was a part of the parliamentary privilege, which is a part of the syllabus GS2. So first, let's understand the history of this case whose judgment has been overturned and corrected. So this case was PV Narasimha Rao versus State of 1998. What happened? In 1993, PV Narasimha Rao's government was in power. Now what happened? In the very same year, there was a non-confidence motion raised against his government. Now, there has to be certain amount of voting for the passing of non-confidence motion, but it was alleged that some of the MPs were defected by giving them bribes, and then they started voting against this no-confidence motion, eventually securing the seat, securing the PV Narasimha government. So this was the first case where bribes were given to the MPs in order to cast a certain favorable vote. That was the first instance. The second instance was observed when a member, Sita Soren of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, she also took bribe in order to cast vote in Rajya Sabha for a particular candidate. So these two cases were running, and Sita Soren said that she should not be convicted. She went to the High Court for the same to get the justice. She said that I have got the parliamentary privilege with me, a parliamentary immunity, so you cannot question my votes and you cannot convict me for the same. So first of all, she went to High Court. High Court rejected her petition. So she finally went to Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court felt that both of these cases are coming in congruence to each other. So now the Supreme Court made a decision on the 5 constitutional judge bench and said that this should be further reviewed by a higher constitutional bench, which should comprise of 7 members. So it also includes the Chief Justice of India. And finally, it has overturned. This particular bench judge said that this particular judgment said, the 5-member one, the 1998 one, said that they cannot be convicted on the grounds of taking bribe for voting in a particular way because they have been empowered by certain parliamentary privileges. But then now it has finally been overturned. It has been said that they cannot be secured against any bribe that they are taking because again it is a criminal charge. So then what is the matter of the case? The matter of the entire case is the interpretation of Article 105 Clause 2 and 194 Clause 2, which basically, rounding up, says that just because you are an MP or you are an MLA who have been accorded certain parliamentary privileges, should you be made immune against the criminal activities, for example, taking bribe? Are you above the law? So this judgment says that no, and there will be criminal sanctions for the same. Now, if you want to talk about the interpretation of Article 105 and 194, these are those empowerment tools which provides parliamentary privileges. So it reads that no member of parliament shall be liable to any proceeding in any court for any action taken by him, be it in the form of speech or be it in the form of rendering a particular vote. So the person will not be convicted, will not be questioned, or will not be subjected to any proceeding. This is for the case of parliament, and for the case of state legislatures, the MLAs get similar kind of immunity from Article 194 clause 2. So therefore the interpretation was the case of the matter in this particular case. Now, what are parliamentary privileges that we are talking about? Parliamentary privileges are certain rights and immunities that are accorded to the entire parliamentary institution as a collective one, and then also to individual parliamentarians in their individual capacity. When I am saying parliamentarians, I am not just mentioning MPs. Some non-MPs, for example, Attorney General, they are also given these parliamentary privileges. These parliamentary privileges thus can be broadly divided into two parts. First of all, the collective privileges which are enjoyed by Parliament as an institution, and the individual, some of the individual privileges that are exercised by parliamentarians on individual capacity. Let's have a quick overview of the same. First of all, they get the right to, or they get the ability to publish report, debate and proceedings, as well as the ability to prevent others from doing the same. So first of all is about publishment. Second, they can make rules. The parliament or the state legislature can make rules to govern their own procedure, and they cannot be questioned for the same. Then they have right to immediate notification of a member's arrest, custody, conviction and imprisonment. Then the courts are not allowed to investigate a house or its committee proceeding. This is in line of separation of power. Then without the consent of the presiding officer, no one, whether a member or an outsider, can be arrested, and no legal process can be served within the house boundary, and this is what provided them immunity. Now, when you talk about the individual privileges, first of all, once a session is going on, there will be a 40-day in and 40-day out rule, which means that no member will be arrested 40 days before the commencement and 40 days after the ending of the session of parliament. Then members have the right to free expression. So therefore they are not accountable to any court of law for whatever they have said or whatever they have expressed. And also they have right to decline to give evidence and testify in the court. See, these privileges were very important for our parliaments to exercise and perform their constitutional duties without the fear of any consequences. But at the same time, it doesn't give them the utmost power that they are above rule of law. And therefore, this decision was very, very important. And therefore, this decision can also be claimed as a historic decision. Now, what was the impact and what will be the impact of this decision? First of all, it will increase the accountability on the lawmakers. So now they will exercise their duties and functions rather more cautiously. This will make them more responsible. And therefore, because they'll be more responsible, they will also become deterrent to have or take up cases like that of corruption. For example, the cash for query scam that was going on in the last year by Mahua Moitra. So that was going on, and it was again a case where the parliamentary privilege was misused. So such many instances have been observed. In fact, in 2005, many parliamentarians took the cash for vote scam. Then there was this Narsimha Rao scam as well. So multiple scams were going on, and this is basically amounting to criminal charges which were not given to them. They were protected in the purview of immunity that was accorded. So basically, by increasing the accountability, you are decreasing the corruption in the entire system. Next, it will improve the public trust. Once you and me knows that our parliamentarians are performing the duties rather responsibly, then we will enhance our trust on the government. And public enhanced trust on the government is very important, very crucial for the working of a healthy democracy. So, enhanced public trust will lead to healthy democracy. Now, the previous investigations and prosecution cases were being delayed because of this curtain of immunity that were provided to them. Now, because it has been removed by the Supreme Court's recent judgment. So now what you can see that it will be fastened up, and therefore faster justice delivery will also be made. So faster investigation prosecutions will expedite the process, and it will provide faster justice delivery. But there are certain negative consequences which might also take place. For example, Our parliamentarians can be harassed by the people or by frivolous lawsuits against them whenever they choose to take any decision, any voting, or any query that goes to extreme and against the government. So, such allegations, fearing such allegations, they might also become less active in speaking out their opinions. Then, there is a strong need of legal framework. So, while we understand that this particular decision is very important and is very welcome in order to secure a healthy, in order to thrive a healthy democracy in the nation, we also need to provide a certain legal framework which can provide protection to our lawmakers against challenges like frivolous lawsuits that can happen in future. So this can be a good way forward. We should strike a right balance between both the cases. Now our next topic is about a recently concluded deal between India and EFTA. What is EFTA? It is European Free Trade Association, comprising of essentially non-European Union nations. We'll read about it, but what is the context? It's a very happy news for us that we have attracted an FDI worth $100 billion for over 15 years across various emerging sectors from this deal of EFTA. First of all, let's read about this association. So this association came into force in the year 1960 in the form of Stockholm Convention. And these are essentially consisting of, it's basically an intergovernmental organization comprising of four nations that were not willing to, or either they were not allowed to become a part of the European Union. So they are Iceland, this is Norway, this is Liechtenstein, and Switzerland. So please remember these four countries as well. This will be important from prelims point of view. Now, the aim was to basically promote economic integration among the following countries, the non-EU members, along with their other trading partners. It has trading partners across the world of up to a count of 40 member countries. For example, they have Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, etc. as their trading partners, and among them they have struck 29 free trade agreements with them. India is also trying to negotiate an economic agreement with them in the name of TEPA, which is Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, which is still under negotiation. But meanwhile, a good news has come that a finally good amount of investment has been brought to India with the help of EFTA. Now, what are the opportunities that EFTA brings for India? First of all, you need to understand that EFTA is India's 9th largest trading partner. So which means this organization, this body is very important for us. It allows us to have market diversification. It allows the Indian exporters to access and penetrate into affluent and developed markets like of these countries. And you can see that this will help us also diversify the risk that we were having from the traditional marketplaces. So that is the first benefit. Second benefit is that we already have got bilateral trade agreements with two countries who are also a part of EFTA. This is Iceland and Norway, and they have been highly beneficial to us because of the reduction of the tariff duties and tariff barriers. We have actually penetrated to a good level in their markets, and it has been a very profitable business, specifically in service sector for India. Then we can also trade in services. So what happens with EFTA is that it has a large consumer demand. It has a large demand for the services, for the service sector. They need IT services, they need healthcare services in large amount, because they have money, but they do not have that amount of talent pool or skilled workforce. Also because of their aging economy. But on the other hand, we have got India, which is world's largest service provider. So basically, with the help of this trade pact and the negotiations and economic agreement, we will be able to bridge the gap so that it can help both the countries. Then it also provides us enormous investment opportunities, just like how we have seen in the case of Context, which has happened. So it can help us bring lot of investments, specifically in sectors like infrastructure, like manufacturing, like services sector, and this will eventually increase the job growth in the country, job opportunities in our country. This will also have a great multiplier effect in the development of country and eventually leading to huge economic growth for India. So therefore, we will be attracting lot of FDI, lot of investment via EFTA. Second, Cooperation in emerging sectors. So now there are emerging sectors, for example, digital infrastructure, for example, renewable energy, for example, developing technologies for sustainable development. Now these countries have got, because they are advanced economies, they have got huge amount of expertise. So their capital, their technology transfer, and their expertise in the same can help us. And therefore, if we create a joint venture with these countries in these particular emerging sectors, then it will be highly profitable for us. So this is about the opportunities that EFTA provides us, but there are certain challenges which we need to assess as well. Coming to the challenges, the first one is the tariff and non-tariff barriers that are faced by Indian exporters. So first of all, the tariff duties on Indian exports are much higher as compared to that coming from their side. So first of all, there is high tariff duty which we need to ease down, and therefore these negotiations under TEPA is going on. And then there are certain non-tariff barriers as well. For example, they have very high technical standards and regulations, very high technical standards and hygiene regulations, and for as a result of which many of the Indian products are rejected because of the accusation of certain phytosanitary non-compliance. So these tariff and non-tariff barriers have eventually led to what? Led to huge disparity among what we expected and what the outcomes were. So take this instance for matter. How much does India import to EFTA? Product and services worth $2 billion. This is recent data of 2023. And how much does EFTA imports to India? Exports to India? It exports as much as 20 billion worth product and services. So who's getting the more market access? It's not India, it's rather EFTA. They are accessing a market where people are having population worth more than 1.5 billion. So therefore, it is actually benefiting EFTA more as compared to India. Next, India also faces competition from the other suppliers or the other countries which are again having FTAs, the free trade agreements with these nations. As you can see that there are multiple nations, there are about 40 countries which have got economic agreement with EFTA. So they actually possess great competition for India. Next, it has stricter intellectual property rights regulations as well. So have you heard about these recently going on clause of EFTA for data exclusivity? Data exclusivity in pharmaceuticals. India was completely against and took a very strong stance against this clause of data exclusivity. So it was rejected, it was removed from this trade clause. What data exclusivity in pharma means? That there will be a restrictions or there will be embargo imposed on the commercial sale of clinical drug trial data. So suppose a country has done some clinical drug trial, so they will not be permitted. If you are a part of an economic agreement with the EFTA, then you will not be allowed, or the countries of EFTA will not be allowed to commercialize this clinical trial data for a minimum of 5 years. But this is bad for India because we want to support, we want to cheapen up our healthcare services and the medicines that we provide by giving generic drugs. So how will we create generic drugs if we are not getting the information, the data on the clinical drug trial? So therefore India was against it. And similarly, it has got multiple and more stricter IPR regulations as what India can give. Next, there are infrastructure and logistical constraints as well. Can you see from the map that these countries are not located very near to India? They are in different continent altogether. Now, because of inefficient and relatively less efficient infrastructure and logistics chain of India, the Indian exporters would find it more time taking and also cost making when it comes to trading with EFTA. And finally, there is limited market access because you can see there has already been an FTA with Norway and Iceland. But in the case of Iceland does not allow or has restricted the trade of Indian rice or the import of Indian rice on again phytosanitary grounds. So even if there is market access, but it is very, very limited, only for certain products that pass the ceiling of phytosanitary and technical standards. Only those are allowed. And that too, they face heavy competition from other market players as well. So how can we overcome these challenges? So first of all, the way forward is that we need to liberalize the measures. We need to ask or we need to appease the EFTA to decrease the trade barriers For example, lower up the duties and the tariffs. And we also need to convince that there should be more market access to more products of India. That is the first thing. So what is the need? Need is trade liberalization that should be taken from the front of EFTA. Next, we have to identify areas of common interest and benefit. These areas include digital infrastructure, renewable energy, etc. So we need to bring up together and create joint ventures to perform R&D, innovations and business collaborations on these emerging areas. Then we need to create more opportunities for the skilled Indian service providers, because we are undergoing the unemployment crisis even if we have the skilled workforce, and they over there, they have the money but they do not have skilled tech force. So we can again have a collaboration and they can help us to create opportunities for Indian workforce, which will contribute to the economic growth of both the nations equally. And then we need to have a very strong political will in order to finally give or make light of the day for this particular negotiation, which is TEPA. Otherwise, it will be kept pending for the time eternal. So the need of the hour is to take a very quick decision and a strong political will in order to strike rightful and balanced agreement with EFTA. Now let's quickly get on to our third topic. This is about the Kalpakkam nuclear power plant. From prelims point of view, we'll be reading about this power plant in detail, and then we will also analyze that how and why India's first indigenous fast breeder reactor has been installed over here, and what is the working principle of a fast breeder reactor. So what is the context? That recently our Prime Minister has witnessed the commencement of core loading at India's first indigenous fast breeder reactor, which is situated at Kalpakkam. So first of all, where is Kalpakkam located? So it is located south of Chennai in the state of Tamil Nadu, and this is the second nuclear power plant of Tamil Nadu. Now, what are the components? There are two components. The initial ones are the previously installed pressurized heavy water reactors. So, India's first commercial nuclear power plant with 2 units of pressurized heavy water reactors have been installed in the same place. And along with that, it is also equipped with fast breeder reactor. And it is in the inauguration of the same where our Prime Minister has went. Now, what is the significance of Kalpakkam? This is very, very important. First of all, it is the first power plant in India to use the pressurized heavy water reactor. If you talk about the 3 stages of nuclear program, which you must have already read in previous Analyst. So, in the stage 1, we require the technology of pressurized heavy water reactor, where, say, let's suppose this is the uranium isotope, which is decaying and as a result emitting out energy. It is subjected to D2O. D is deuterium, which is an isotope of hydrogen. So it is subjected to D2O. It will be absorbing its heat, and so that it doesn't evaporate, because converting into heat would also convert it into steam. So therefore it doesn't evaporate, and in order for it to accumulate as higher amount of energy as possible, we provide heavy pressures into the system, into this chamber. So therefore this is known as pressurized heavy water. Heavy water, why? Because we are using D2O. So pressurized heavy water reactors are used, and then the energy is channelized, and then it is allowed to take the form of a steam, and the steam finally runs the steam engines or the power plants. So now this is about the pressurized heavy water reactor, which is used in the first stage, and most of the nuclear reactors are actually working in the first stage only, except for Kalpakkam, which also has made grounds for the second stage of nuclear program, which includes the fast breeder reactors. So this also houses India's only operational fast breeder test reactor and its prototype. This is also second in the world, because the only operational fast breeder reactor is situated where? It is situated in Russia, and the second one is in India. So it's a great feat for us. Now we'll understand what is a fast breeder reactor. First, let's understand the concept of fast breeding. So what is the concept of breeding? Breeding is when you convert a fertile nuclear material into a fissile material. What is the difference between a fertile material and a fissile material? A fertile material can become fissile or can start giving off the energy or performing nuclear reaction or performing nuclear fission only when it is bombarded with electrons or with thermal electrons. So it is not fissile by itself, by its own virtue. It needs some intervention. That is a fertile material. For example, the isotope of uranium U-38, it is a fertile material. And also, for example, this isotope of thorium U-32 is also a fertile material. Now, they can exist in independent forms and they are not ultimately, or they are not fissile by themselves. But the fissile materials are those which can start disintegrating into nuclear fission by their own. Now, these include U-235 uranium, and it also includes another isotope which is plutonium. Plutonium, and it is denoted by Pu, and this is 239, and it also includes uranium 233. So if you see that this fertile nuclear fuel, when it is given one neutron, then it gets converted into plutonium, which is fissile. If we are using thorium, then it will, if bombarded with a neutron, will get converted into another isotope, which is again a fissile material. So hereby what we are doing, we are trying to get a self-sustained nuclear reaction without the intervention of any neutrons. So a breeder reactor is that which converts a fertile reactor or a fertile material into a fissile material. Here the objective is to generate more fissile material that it can consume, so that the entire nuclear reactor becomes self-driven and it does not utilize extra fuel. Now, when you talk about the fastness in the reactor or in the breeder, it is infused by the fact that there is lack of moderators. So we are not having any controlling rods installed over here so that we can control or moderate the speed of neutrons. We are not doing that. Therefore, they are fast breeder reactors. Now, what were the challenges with pressurized heavy water reactor that were overcome by the fast breeder reactor? First of all, that these, although they give out energy of about 200 megawatt, but it can double up in the case of fast breeder reactor. It produces energy of about 500 megawatt. So in order to produce more amount of energy in less amount of time, we need to shift to the stage 2 of nuclear program, which utilizes the fast breeder reactor. Fast breeder reactor would be using inputs like thorium and the isotope U or uranium isotope U-238. Now, how does a particular fast breeder reactor works? Let's understand it with the help of this diagram. A typical fast breeder reactor consists of two components. First of all, the core material. Core material is the main fuel. Now, this core material is U-235, which is fissile in nature. So, it will start decomposing and it will start performing nuclear fission by itself, and it will start releasing neutrons. Now, it is then surrounded by a fertile material. This fertile material is U-238, which will utilize these neutrons, and then it will become plutonium. And plutonium, again, because it is a fissile material, again because capable of self-decomposition, it again becomes a secondary fuel. So while burning a fuel, you are already or also generating an alternative fuel. Therefore, it runs as a self-driven reaction. So this is about the fast breeder reactor. One more thing you need to remember for fast breeder is that they do not use moderators, but they use liquid sodium to carry this heat. Huge, enormous amount of heat is generated from this reaction, and this is carried not with the help of the heavy water D2O, but with the help of liquid sodium. So this is about the fast breeder reactor, and this is a part of stage 2 of India's nuclear policy. Now our next topic is about the GI tag, or the geographical indication tag. What is the context? That the Naraspur crochet lace craft from the Godavari region of Andhra Pradesh has recently received the geographical indication tag. How many approximately geographical indications tag do we have in India? Approximately more than 500. Okay, let us start the topic. Can you imagine Madhubani painting without Bihar? Or can you imagine Darjeeling tea without Darjeeling? Or can you imagine Petha without Agra? No, because these premium quality products derive their uniqueness not only from their good quality, but also from the location where they belong to. And therefore, they need to be given certain distinctive recognition. This is known as the geographical indication recognition, or the GI tag. The idea of protecting the geographical indications was given for the first time under the TRIPS agreement of WTO. And because India is compliant with the TRIPS agreement of WTO and India is a member of the same, therefore in 1999, India promulgated this legislation providing protection to these unique attributes or these unique products having certain geographical attributes. So, Geographical Indication of Goods Registration and Protection Act, the GI Act of 1999, provides for the registration and provides for the protection of such products. Again, there are multiple other legal frameworks working for the protection of GI tags or geographical indication. It includes Lisbon Convention, it includes Paris Convention. So you can also note it down for prelims point of view. As I have already told you, there are more than 500 products which have been enlisted under the GI tag in India. Some of them you can see from here: the blue pottery of Jaipur, the Chanderi fabric of Madhya Pradesh, the Kutch embroidery from Gujarat, the Solapur chadar of Maharashtra, the Mysore silk of Karnataka, so on and so forth. You can read all of them. Not possible to learn all of them, but at least the recent one you should be reading and trying to remember. Now, what is the duration of protection and which kind of protection is provided for the same? See, the owners of these GI products or the initial manufacturers who are belonging to the assigned region of these GI products get unique IPR rights, which are with them for a course of 10 years, which can be expanded up to lifetime by extending this 10 years in one time. So in every 10 years it can be renewed, and it can be renewed up to lifetime. So this is about the duration and the kind of protection they get. Germany leads in this case. Which country has got the maximum amount of GI tags assigned to the products? This is Germany with about 15,000. China stands next with about 9,000, and India is actually lagging behind with only about 500 such products. That too, majority are in the category of handicraft, and then it is in the category of agriculture. So if a question comes to you that it is assigned only for the food category, it is not true. It is assigned in non-food category as well. Now, what is the significance of assigning GI tag? And it has been enlisted in this particular article as well. First of all, it provides protection and recognition to the people who are creating or manufacturing this product since the generations or along the generation. So when you get the protection and the recognition, then it prevents against the unauthorized use and access of the product's name or the product's quality. A funny example of Bisleri can be seen. While it is not a GI tag, but still you can see that how multiple changes in the names have been made and sold across the market. We all know how Bisleri becomes Bilseri. So such things should be avoided in the case of our heritage, our cultural crafts that have been inherited since generation, which should be rightfully accorded the GI tag. So first of all, it gives them the due protection and the due recognition, which also makes them of premium quality, and which also provides them a sense of uniqueness. This also has got multiple economic benefits, because once it has been recognized as a unique product in the market, the manufacturers or the artisans who are often poor or often reliant on manufacturing these handicrafts or these food materials only, they can be able to put a premium price tag on the same. So the price can also increase. And because they are getting the global recognition because of the GI tag, therefore they will also have higher demand now. So demand would be high and price would be high. This will also thrive the economy of these areas which are producing the products. Then it has benefits beyond the economic things as well. It helps us to preserve the cultural heritage as well. Culture or a heritage or a handicraft or a kind of craft which has been passing since generation, preserved since generations, and should be preserved for the future generations as well. All of that can be done by providing them due recognition and by providing them due safety and safeguards. So therefore it also helps in providing or preserving our cultural heritage. This is about the GI tag and its significance. It's very important for UPSC point of view, because UPSC has asked multiple questions on the same. I have included two only. So first one says that which of the following have been accorded the GI indication? Banaras brocades and sari, yes. Rajasthani dal bati and churma, unfortunately no. Tirupati Laddu, yes. So the correct answer is 1 and 3. This makes us understand that you need to make yourself aware of the GI tags, although don't need to rote learn on the same, but at least have a glance of it. Then the second question, India enacted the GI Act of 1999 in order to comply with the obligations of which of the following organizations? So it is definitely WTO. I have already told you that because we were signatory to TRIPS of WTO, therefore we made this particular act, this particular legislation, which came into effect in the year 2003, and in 2004 India has got its first GI tagged product, that was the Darjeeling tea. So I hope this is clear to you. Now in the last topic, we will study about the largest religious monument of the world, which is also proclaimed as the 8th wonder of the world. This is the Angkor Wat temple complex of Cambodia. This has been a news because of some wrong reasons, because there have been allegations by Amnesty International, which safeguards human rights, that Cambodia has relocated and replaced the habitations of many people living around the Angkor Wat ever since it has been designated the title of the 8th wonder of the world. So this is the context running. So we will start our discussion by reading about the history and the architecture of Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat literally means the city of temples. Angkor stands for city and Wat stands for temple, because it has got multiple temple architecture in the same sanctum or in the same complex. It is situated in the Siem Reap province of Cambodia, and it is also accorded the status of world's largest religious monument. Who has created this? There's a king from the Khmer Empire, and this is King Suryavarman II, whose period was the golden period for the Khmer Empire, and the duration, it was built somewhere around 12th century AD. Now, this particularly is important from UPSC point of view and from Indian point of view, because it also showcases Hindu culture explicitly, because it was initially designed, although this Khmer Empire was Shaivite in nature, still this particular king built a Vishnu temple. So this is a temple on the Hindu god Vishnu, and it is also designed to replicate the Nagar style, which basically represents the Mount Meru. Mount Meru, according to Hindu mythology, is where all the Devis and Devtas of Hindu god or Hindu deities reside. It also showcases some of the intricate carvings of Amrit Manthan and some of the cases of Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. The material used, as you can see, is grey stone. It is also accorded the status of being a composite temple, having both Hindu cultures and Buddhist culture, because initially it was constructed as a Hindu temple, but then later it got transformed into the Buddhist temple under the influence of the further rulers. So then towards the end of 12th century, it became a Buddhist temple. So it's a composite, unique temple of its own kind. What is the Indian contribution in its development and restoration? So there have been certain temple complexes which have got relevance for the Hindus itself. So therefore, Angkor Wat, Tafrom and Priya Vihar have been carried out, their construction renovation have been carried out under India's funding itself. So this is why we have read about these details, because a paragraph could be made out of it and then you would be made to identify the place in news. And this is Angkor Wat. Now let's quickly talk about the Khmer dynasty. The Khmer dynasty is also known as the Angkorian dynasty or the Kamboj dynasty. You can see the region of influence. It is in the Southeast Asian countries of Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. And you can see that the duration is from 9th to 15th century. This is also when the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire, it's coinciding with that of India. The founder is King Jayavarman, and Angkor was their capital city, where they have also built multiple temple complexes like that of Angkor Wat. Now, a very interesting fact, which area or which site of India is known as the Angkor Wat of Northeast or Angkor Wat of India? This is the Unakoti caves of Tripura. This can also appear in the examination. Unakoti has been in news because this is a Shaivite pilgrimage site with gigantic rock-cut sculptures. And how many of them are there? One less than 1 crore. About 99,99,999 caves are located in the Unakoti cave. So therefore, this is also known as the Angkor Wat of Northeast. Now, we will quickly understand the mapping of Cambodia, because this will be again important from geography point of view. Where is Cambodia located? It is one of the Southeast Asian countries. It is located over here. If you talk about its borders, then in the west, it borders with Thailand. Then in the northeast, it borders with Laos. Then in southeast, it borders with Vietnam. And then it also opens up to the Gulf of Thailand. So it is not a landlocked country. Its capital is Phnom Penh. The major river that flows across it is the Mekong River. We already read about the Mekong-Ganga cooperation, so Cambodia is also a part of it. Mekong River passes through it, but it does not drain via Cambodia. It drains via Vietnam. So it then flows to, it forms a Mekong Delta in Vietnam and then finally drains into the South China Sea. Anyway, that was about Mekong River. Another very important hydrological structure over here is the Tonle Sap Lake. This can also be asked. Tonle Sap Lake is important, and the river which flows through it is the Tonle Sap River. Unique feature about this river is that sometimes it reverses its flow. So whenever the monsoon comes and the flow or the level of this water increases, then the river starts flowing in the backward direction or in the reverse direction. Then, as I've already told you, Mekong River passes, and one of the main cities that are located in the Mekong River is the capital, the Phnom Penh. So capital is located in Mekong River itself. And then where is Angkor located? Angkor is located in the Riang region, which is here. In the Siem Reap region, this is Angkor. So this was about Cambodia's mapping, and this was all about today's discussion. I hope you've liked it. Thank you so much and have a nice day.